still have plenty. I still have plenty. It's fine.
Is my mic on? There we go.
Do you want me to get it for her, Jackie? Do you want me to get it for her? Here, I'll get it. I'll get it.
What are you talking about?
First off, I like your stage all the way on the side.
Good evening, Ospreys. Welcome to the 2018 Student Government Presidential Debate. My name is Aisha Solomon, and I am the Elections Commissioner for Student Government, and I will be moderating tonight's event. So this debate is going to be a little bit different because we have three running candidates. Representing the Forward Party is presidential candidate Jenna Dupoka, and her vice presidential candidate Maria Bermudez is joining us in the audience today. Representing the Howard Party, we have presidential candidate Chris Dearduff. His running mate, Bridget Monahan, is also with us in the audience. Last but not least, we have Red Party's presidential candidate Thomas Beecham and his vice presidential candidate Kristen Ballard. Okay, so tonight's agenda is going to include three different sessions. The first session is going to include a series of standard questions that were submitted by the Office of Elections. The second session is called a fire round. The candidates are going to direct questions directly to one another. And finally, the last round is revolving around you guys, the audience. So you guys had note cards coming in. If you have questions during the debate for any candidate, make sure you write it down, and then you're going to give them to us during the break. All right, now before we get started, I do have a couple of reminders. I ask that one, you make sure that all of your cell phones are turned off, and that also please be sure to hold any and all applause to the end for respect for the candidates. Okay, before we begin the actual questioning session, each presidential candidate will have 3 minutes to give us a background of themselves and their platforms. We have chosen the candidates, whoever goes first randomly prior to tonight's event, and we will start off from Chris with the Howard Party. So we have 3 minutes, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening. When we first founded the Howard Party and we were deciding what to name it, we could have named it Yellow Party or run with an established party, but instead we didn't want to pretend to be something that we weren't. Howard the Duck is relatable. Most people who live on campus know who he is, and that's what we want. We want to have a connection with the students. We want to be a party that relates to students and works with them. A problem with student government isn't that they don't have the right policies or that they don't have good leadership. Its problem is that they're disconnected from the students. We intend to bridge that disconnect. We're telling you right now what our policies are. We want connection with students. We want to have cookouts on the greens where student government and students are connected, talking to each other right there in person. We want to be more efficient within student government so that the events for students are better. We want to be eco-friendly. We're in the middle of a nature preserve and it's important that we remain eco-conscious. And we want to have an inclusive, all-inclusive UNF app that puts all of UNF at the students' fingertips and gives us a direct line of connection. Election season shouldn't be one of the only times that student government is out socializing with the students. We want to have our meet and greet twice a semester because it directly connects. It gets student government out from the student union. Some people involved with student government just they get elected, they go into the student union, and they stay there. They don't leave the nest. We want to be with students all the time. We don't want to distinguish between election season and the rest of the semester. We want to be out there and keep our connection with student government because it's their student government. Thank you.
Thank you. Same question. Thomas, you are next.
Good evening, everyone. So as you know, my name is Thomas Beecham. I am a senior currently in accounting and political science. I've been accepted to graduate school for accountancy in the fall semester. One thing to know about me is that I've lived in Jacksonville my whole life. I was born in 1995, so there you go. You have my age right now. I'm old compared to a lot of you. But one thing that I think a lot of students will relate to me on is that UNF was not my first choice. And Jacksonville was a place where I was ready to get out when I graduated my bachelor's degree. I already had everything figured out. And then I came here to my first year, and I found out, one, how great this campus was. First off, the beauty of the school inspired me a lot because I realized that this could be a place where I could grow my future. And it wasn't immediate, it was something that I evolved into. So, of course, the initial thought is, oh, I have to come to UNF. After 4 years of being here, I can say, I love the school so much, I love the city so much, that I want to make my life in the city. I want to continue with graduate school. I want to continue with my career here. And it's something that I think a lot of people here can say it the same way. You grow to love the school. Now, one thing that I want to do as your next student body president is I want to enhance the student experience. I want to make this campus even better for the next generation of Ospreys. So some of the things that we have planned for you next year, one is something I call Swipe Out Hunger. The problem is across this university and across the entire country, food insecurity is a major issue for our students. And one way we can do that is by feeding people. So what we plan to do for next year, we're going to talk to Chartwells, we're going to talk to the administration, and we're going to implement a policy that student government can get off the ground. Students who need food can get a voucher from safe places like the Dean's Office, the Counseling Center, the LGBT Resource Center. These places where students can be identified by professional staff as needing food, and they can get a voucher to the cafe. Other things we want to do, we want to expand the library weekend hours. Opening at 1 o'clock on a Sunday is ridiculous. People have jobs. People have to go to work. And when we're talking 1 o'clock for retail, that's usually the second shift. You work 1 o'clock to close, you don't have time because now you're tired. You need to be able to go when you can go, and that might mean in the morning. We also want to expand the town center shuttle hours. We have students on campus who are stranded because they don't have a vehicle, and 4 hours every day during the week is simply not enough time, especially when it's 12 to 4. I think that's absolutely ridiculous because students are in class, they don't have the time to go to Publix, they don't have the time to go to Target, to the places they need to go to and get the resources that they don't have available to campus. But these sort of things, these initiatives, they build into creating.
Thank you, Thomas. That is your time. Oh, All right, Jenna, you are next.
Hello, thank you all for coming to tonight's debate, and thank you Elections Commissioner Solomon for moderating this tonight's debate. I'm Jen DePelka, and I have served as your senator over the past year, and I'm excited to expand my dedication to you, the students, and the university by running to be your student body president. We all know that over the past year, student government has experienced turmoil like never before. I've heard from multiple students that they feel student government no longer represents them. So that's why I plan to move forward by doing 4 things. First, picking senators who are diverse and engaged to run alongside me. Second, working closely with the Senate President to make sure that these senators are properly trained to get initiatives off the ground. Third, picking an executive staff that will help me and aid me in making decisions that are necessary. And fourth, most importantly, listening to you, the students. I've already begun 2 of the 4 things, not only as our senatorial ticket candidate very diverse, but as your senator, I have been actively listening to students. In fact, the Mobile Osprey One card, a forward party initiative, was brought up to me by a student outside the library. I really appreciated the student's idea and took into consideration what they were thinking and how they were feeling. Because the most important part of student government is you, the student. And when you speak, we need to listen. My Vice President, Maria Bermudez, and I have a lot in common. We are both a part of the Greek community, we love UNF, and as always, we have served in Senate together since the beginning. As my experience in Vice Chair for Constitution, Statutes, and Committee, I have worked closely with the Constitution and the Senate policies and procedures. This means that I know how Senate is ran, and I will be able to energize senators. Maria Bermudez has served on the Government Oversight Committee, which means that she has done a great job at interviewing positions. And this will help us when picking directors for these agencies, like Osprey Productions and Lenderling. Once these agency directors are picked, we will make sure that we have an open communication style with them and give them a level of autonomy that past administrations have lacked. Maria and I are here to earn your vote, but most importantly, we're here to earn your trust. We want to move UNF student government forward, not for ourselves, but for you, the students. Thank you.
Thank you. So for the next part of this debate, the candidates will have 1 minute and 30 seconds to respond. So the first question is for you, Thomas. How would you best describe the type of leadership that you possess, and how will it help you if you become elected?
The type of leadership that I've emulated so far as the president has been one of shared governance, in the sense that we talk to people from different constituencies, we talk to people from the different branches, we work together as one unit, because student government is not the executive branch, and it's not the legislative branch, it is all the branches, and it's all the agencies. So when I ask my people, what do we do about this particular issue? I receive input from all sides before I make a decision on an issue. I think the worst thing a leader can possibly do is come to a decision unilaterally and enforce it without the input of students.
Thank you. Jenna, the same question. How would you best describe your type of leadership, and how will it help you if you become elected?
My type of leadership is having open communication and being honest with people and making sure that I have a checks and balance system. So I'm not going to make decisions that I feel are necessary, but if someone else says to me that they don't think it's necessary, I will take into consideration and openly and honestly decide what to do. I think that this will help me with students when working with Senate President and working with committees and making sure that they're ethically and openly trying to communicate to students.
Thank you. Chris, the same question goes to you.
Thank you. I would describe my leadership style as very straightforward. I set a vision, but then I take people's input. I want their input on what they think needs to be changed, and then I listen to that. I'm going to work to try to make sure everyone's happy. If we need to compromise, we will compromise. If we can't, then we won't. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so the next question goes to Jenna. In the recent past, student government has had a huge problems with members stepping down or resigning. How will you make sure that that does not happen?
So one thing that I've realized is that open communication is key. Making sure that you are answering emails, making sure that you are talking to your staff, and making sure you're applying the necessary ethics that need to be applied within student government to work. I want to make sure that even if senators or even if exec staff steps down, that they can honestly say that I tried to do a good job with them. I want to make sure that by having open communication, giving all agencies the right amount of leniency and autonomy, that they feel that it's a productive working environment and that I'm not micromanaging them.
Thank you. The same question is for you, Chris. How will you deal with members stepping down?
Thank you. I would want to create an environment that's very open, so that if they have a problem with something, that they can come to me, that they can tell me their problem, and that we can work to try to fix that, so it does not result in people having to step down. Now, everyone has personal problems that lead to possibly having to step down, and that's very understandable, but we can always try to work to prevent those. Thank you.
Thomas, the floor is yours.
Well, based on my experience as the Senate President, one thing I found that was really key to creating a tight-knit group and creating the kind of feeling like I belong to something bigger than myself is you have to have opportunities for bonding with your team members. So that means going out for a burger, going out to just get a conversation started, and not about politics or SG or anything work-related, but just to talk about ourselves, get to know each other. That's the kind of environment that we need to create in any workplace. It doesn't matter if it's student government or not. And I've seen it work before. In my time as Senate President, we only had one person leave. And actually, compared to everywhere else, that's a lot better. Because based on the 2.5 years I've been in student government, one thing that we had, regardless, was that multiple people were leaving, as you said, Aisha. But if we create that kind of bonding, we create that kind of comfortable environment where we do become friends with everyone, that is the way we create an environment where people don't actually want to leave. Because again, we're all students. We have stresses, we have factors in our lives that we can't control. But feeling like we are connected, feeling like we have friends, feeling like we belong to something bigger than ourselves, we want to stay in, we will do everything we can to stay in there.
Thank you. Chris, the next question goes to you. A majority of the student body is unaware of what exactly student government does. How will you combat that?
Thank you. So the Howard Party, we want to do something called a meet and greet on the green that gets senators, that gets the executive branch, that gets everyone involved with student government out on the green. Students get free food, they can come out, they can talk directly with senators, directly with the president. Anything that they want to discuss, they can. And that also brings awareness to student government that it exists. They'd be like, oh, what's this? This is student government. They can learn how to get involved if they want to. Thank you.
Thank you. Thomas, go ahead.
So something that we'll continue to do, that we have already started doing, is that we create opportunities for members of student government to go out and talk to people, but more importantly, to give them an actual look into what student government can do for them. So something that we did recently in January, we had Mental Health Awareness Week. It was a complete initiative of our student government where we had our members, senators, and members of the executive team go out and give coloring books with crayons and color pencils, sort of things that students really receive well, in addition to food and little goodies. So that way people can see, wow, student government cares about me as a person. Student government is looking out for me, they're looking out for my health. Those sort of things actually will be received very well, I'd say, because students have lives, students have classes, as always, and sometimes the real issue is just letting people know you have someone out there that's willing to work for you. So again, I can't expect students to think, oh, what is my student government doing 24/7? Because that's not the student's job to be thinking 24/7, what is student government doing for me? My job as the president, and everyone's job in student government, is to get out there and say, this is what we're doing for you.
Thank you. Jenna, the same question goes to you.
I think that getting out there in the community is the best way to make sure that the community knows what student government is doing for them. Informing senators about how processes work, and then having those same senators inform other students about what student government is doing for them is also essential. Creating a Facebook that is productive and that shows students what we are doing is also essential. I also plan on doing something every month called Donuts with Dupelka, and I think it'll be on the green, and senators can come out and help me, and I'm not just going to stand there and expect students to come up to me. I'm going to go out to students and actually talk to them. I want to create an environment on campus where they feel that where students feel that they can walk up to anybody in student government and be able to talk to them. Also, I plan on not just barricading myself in the office. I plan on being in the library where most students are. I plan on being on the green when days are beautiful outside and just being there with the students. And I hope that my senators will follow me as well.
Thank you. The next question is to Thomas. If you are elected, what characteristics will you take in consideration when you're picking your administration?
The very first characteristic that I'm looking for is a passion to serve. Something that I've always been taught by my mother and my family is that you have to surround yourself with the right kind of people, the people that you want to be most like. And that means being surrounded by people who are dedicated to others, serving others without any self-interest. So when I hire people, the first thing I ask them is, why do you want to be in student government? And that reveals to me a lot about what their motivations are, what their reasoning is. And if they tell me something like, oh, because like House of Cards, or I really want to be in politics, no, I'm sorry. That is not the reason to be in student government. The reason to be in student government is to serve people and really feel like I want to be a part of something that's bigger than myself. Again, it's about wanting to help people in any way possible. And if that means picking up trash at the comedy show or concert, if that means just even cleaning up vomit, I mean, we've done it. And really, that's the kind of service we give you. That's the kind of dedication we have for you. And that is what I look for.
Thank you, Thomas. Okay. Jenna, the same question goes to you.
So when I'm picking my executive cabinet, I am looking for people who are ethical, have a good work ethic, and who are passionate about the job that they're applying for. Whether the job is related to their major or if they have past experience with that job, I want to make sure that they're really passionate and know the time commitments that they're required of. Most people, unfortunately, don't know how time-consuming student government can be. So I want to make sure that when we're in those discussions that they know those commitments, so that we don't have turnover.
Thank you. Chris, go ahead.
Thank you. When looking for my candidates, I would like to look for someone who's, very organized, has good time management skills, but also not like-minded, that's very open-minded. That way, if they think I'm doing something wrong, that they can approach me and say, hey, I don't think this is right. I think, maybe we should do it like this. And I would be there to listen. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, the next question, we're going to start with Jenna. With President Delaney stepping down and the Presidential Search Committee forwarding a new presidential candidate, how do you foresee the change within the leadership of UNF affecting your administration if you win? And if there is a change, how will you make sure that it will be a positive one?
I'm actually so excited that we're getting a new president because that means it's going to be a new chapter for UNF as well. I'm really passionate about making connections with people and ensuring that they feel like it's a positive work environment, and I feel like I'm the right person for that job to create a culture where the president feels that they're comfortable enough to come up with anything and we can work together.
Thank you. Chris, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm very much looking forward to working with the new president. I feel that it offers a lot of great opportunities for UNF to new ideas, to new thinkers and on campus. It presents a lot of opportunities for UNF to grow, and I'm very much looking forward to working.
Thank you. And Thomas, go ahead.
Well, I've actually had a chance to talk with Dr. Szymanski, having sat on the Board of Trustees and having been able to cast the vote for the student support behind Dr. Szymanski. Dr. Szymanski has shown the university that from all his experiences at Cincinnati, that he knows how to be a community leader. He knows how to get out there and tell the story of his institution. And that's the kind of president we need, is someone who can go out, not just Jacksonville, but this entire state of Florida, and say, this is what you can expect from being at Osprey. This is the kind of school UNF is, because we're passionate about serving our students, just like every college is. But one thing that sets us apart is that we know what our students need. We know that we have niche markets, and we're trying to meet all those demands that other schools are not meeting, simply because we're actually very nimble. We're actually small enough where we can do that. We have the kind of resources available to us to do something like that. But Dr. Szymanski, he's going to be able to create a great relationship with student government and with this university because he understands how important it is to serve people, and I'm very excited about serving with him.
Thank you. So the last question of this session of the debate will start with Chris. It is important to keep up with current events and be cognizant of what happens outside of the borders of UNF. Can you name an international current event that is taking place and relate it back to how it affects us at the University of North Florida?
So obviously there's been a lot of turmoil around lately, especially with a lot of the mass shootings, for example, here in Florida within the last 2 weeks. And that impacts us greatly. It affects students here on campus, and I think that's something we need to be aware of anytime that there's something like that there might be people out there that need help, that we can offer our support to them.
Thank you. Thomas, go ahead.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Absolutely. It is important to keep up with current events and be cognizant of what occurs outside the borders of UNF. Can you pick an international current event and relate it back to how it affects us here at the University of North Florida?
So, an international event, your focus was on international, so that's what I was confused about. I would say one thing that's been going on in the world, it's more of a trend, is the fact that China is actually growing its strength around the world. And something that we actually have here with the Confucius Institute is we're building a relationship with universities and institutions in China to create an international experience for students. And that's the sort of trend that UNF wants to continue doing. I believe we need to continue internationalizing our university because that's going to create a better experience for all of our students. And we need to be cognizant of that, and we take advantage of that because that's what's going to put us ahead of all the universities in this country.
Thank you. Jenna, go ahead.
So I'm a big advocate for women's rights, and one thing that's been hindering for as long as I have been alive and can remember is women's rights in other countries are being hindered and sexual assault is on the rise. Much like how years ago senators walked around campus for how dim lighting the campus was, I plan on doing more campus safety walks and promoting an environment that does not promote sexual assault on campus.
Thank you. So that concludes the first portion of our debate. The second portion is called the Fire Round, and it's called Fire Round because it's questions that candidates have submitted to the Office of Elections, and it's to each other, and they only have 1 minute to answer. So we're going to start off with a question for Thomas from Chris. Your party motto is results, experience, and dedication. However, the Red Party has experienced an unprecedented amount of resignations over the past year. Are these the results that you were looking for and promised? And would this pass as dedication?
So I would say that, one, the turnover that student government has experienced is not the result of the Red Party. It's not the result of any particular party at all because we've had turnover. Actually, we've had 5 presidents before me in the last 3 years, and we've had 2 different parties in power. The real issue that I see when it comes to the turnover is more a matter of getting the right people in positions that are good for them and good for student government. So what that means is a person, if they're not ready to take on a leadership role, they should not take on that leadership role simply because it does not do them any good, it's not fair to them, and it's not fair to the students. We want to make sure that every position in student government is filled with the right candidate, the right individual who has the dedication, who has the passion, and who has the experience to take on that role. And when they're ready to move on up, they will move up. But until then, we want to keep them where they are. That's the kind of result we're going to get.
Thank you. This question is for Jenna, and it is from Thomas. In regards to your platform and its advocacy for better Wi-Fi, are you aware that the university has already committed $4 million to improving campus Wi-Fi, and that tomorrow Senate will vote on a $250,000 bill for student unions Wi-Fi?
Yes, I am aware of that. As a senator, I am given all the legislation that is being passed. When I saw that piece of legislation, I was actually kind of disappointed because not a lot of students use the student union Wi-Fi. It's more the library Wi-Fi that's the issue, and I think that if we want to target students' initiatives and make sure that their needs are met, we should actually be going where the students are and where they go more. And I don't think that students will go to the student union more if the Wi-Fi is better. I think that the Wi-Fi problem is in the library all the time, and that's where it needs to be addressed.
Thank you. Chris, this question is to you from Jenna. How have you researched the practicality of your initiatives?
Thank you. So I've researched them a bit. So for example, our app that we want to install, it's going to take a while, honestly. But I'm not afraid to go ask questions of because I have no experience within student government. I'm not afraid to go to the advisors who are there to help us, to go ask them, oh, what's been done? How can we do this differently? I'm open to actually looking into more feasibility for these things. I also believe that the campus has a huge amount of resources. We're a campus with 16,000 students that have different majors. And I feel if opening up positions within student government to these majors specific, for example, application design, we could find the right people for this. Thank you.
Thank you. Going back to Thomas, this question is from Jenna. How did you choose your vice presidential candidate?
So I met Kristen Ballard a few weeks before the campaign began because I was in need of someone that, one, had passion, two, that I could trust, and three, had shown already an experience which proved to me that there was no one else better qualified for the job as vice president. Kristen has already shown in her sorority a dedication to serve her fellow students. She's already on the executive board for her sorority, and she has shown me more than any other person in the field that she is ready to take on the role as vice president. She is ready to serve her students as the head of the agencies in student government.
Thank you. Okay, back to Jenna. So this question is from Chris. And are you aware that your proposal of a syllabus bank was attempted by previous administrations and was rejected by university faculty? How exactly is promoting past and unsuccessful agendas match your party slogan of moving forward?
So students still want syllabus banks. They still want to promote a university that they can feel at home and that they feel is actually working for them. Being able to pick what they want out of their courses is the most essential part of being a student. So saying that it was a failure, maybe it did fail, but that doesn't mean that we can't create a relationship or a bridge where these bonds can be mended again and we can try again. And I think that that does move student government forward because it's making sure that students are still heard.
Thank you. Chris, back to you. So Thomas was asking, what experience do you have that qualifies you to run a $4.5 million organization?
Thank you. So I do not have experience within student government, but I don't think that should stop, because if anyone, when I first started getting interested in student government, the first thing I was told was, oh, run as senator, it's great. It gives you the experience to be able to, move up through the ranks. But I also feel like that could be a bad thing, because if everyone new into student government immediately becomes a senator, they have all these great ideas, but then they go there and they get into this mindset of thinking, oh, well, maybe we can't do this, we can't do that. And my personal experience, I've run a branch of a company here in Jacksonville. And so the executive branch is very business-like, if anything. You work with clients, the students, you represent them, you have direct control over people, you supervise them. And I feel like my lack of experience in student government is actually better because I have this vision, this new ideas that I'm not afraid to try to push for. Thank you.
Thank you. So this concludes the second portion of our debate. We're going to take a 10-minute break and we'll be back. And at that time, if you guys have your note cards or the questions, feel free to give them to our two volunteers. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Welcome back. So you guys asked questions, and tonight we are going to ask these questions to the candidates and see how they respond. Candidates, you have 3 minutes to respond to these questions, and we're going to start with Chris. Are you worried about your lack of experience in student government? Even students who spent years in leadership roles in student government have had to step down once they become president.
Thank you. No, because I feel joining student government with experience, you join as a politician. But if you join student government without, you join as an honest, open student with new ideas, with direct contact with the student body. You haven't been, around student government. Thank you.
Thank you. Thomas, this question is for you. How do you think being a graduate student will affect your ability to relate to the student body?
Well, one thing I will say when it comes to graduate students and student government, we currently have only one member of our organization that's a graduate student. That's our treasurer, Chris Jordan. Graduate students make up about 15% of the population at UNF. If anything, graduate students are highly underrepresented in student government. Part of being a graduate student means you are still a part of the UNF community. You are still an Osprey like anyone else. And so for us to be emphasizing more about undergrads is actually unfair to them. So I would say that being a graduate student, sorry about that, part of being a graduate student actually is not going to affect anything. And if anything, it's going to be an inspiration for other graduate students to participate and get involved.
Thank you. Jenna, how does such a small time commitment of being a senator translate to being president, a 40-hour job, translate for you?
So even though I was just a senator and it was a time commitment on Fridays, I also made the time commitment of reading each document and making sure that I knew the Constitution and send policies back and forth. I have stopped taking on roles in Kappa Delta. I no longer have any positions in that chapter. I also have been contemplating on not taking any internships this summer, so I have not applied for any, and I have turned down offers that I have gotten. I am prepared for this role. I am dedicated. I am first a student, then student body president, and then a part of Greek life.
Thank you. Okay, back to Chris. What are your plans for the agencies of student government? How will it differ from the previous administration?
Thank you. The current administration's agencies have been going through a lack of communication from what I've been talking with people and what I've heard. And so to solve this, we want to really increase a just general overall communication within the executive branch of student government. Make sure everyone's on the same page. Once everyone's on the same page, then we can work as efficient as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, back to Thomas. Talk about what you consider your biggest achievement or accomplishment as your time as student body president.
I would have to say that my biggest accomplishment, and it hasn't been finished yet, but it will be finished soon, are the Linda Wing Pantry renovations. Because part of the reason why I serve in student government is to help people who struggle. And one of the things I've emphasized in this debate is food insecurity. The Linda Wing Pantry has done a phenomenal job in the last 6 years that it's been in existence serving the students of UNF. But part of these renovations and part of a lot of the donations that we've received from generous donors, parents, and the community is that we want to expand food options to students. Canned goods and cereal and ramen, they're not going to cut it forever. We want to start getting students access to produce, get them access to meat. And those are the sort of things that you can expect from this administration within the next couple of months.
Thank you. Jenna, the Forward Party has had an initiative to build a dog park. How will you ensure the safety of this park, and how will you prevent aggressive dogs from entering campus?
So most dogs that come onto campus are service animal dogs, which means that anybody can walk up to them and ask them if they're a service animal dog. Can student government prevent people from bringing dogs on campus right now? No. They have to be service animal qualified, but you can't go around just knowing if a dog is a service animal or not. When it comes to creating the dog park, we'll try our best to keep the area fenced so that people who aren't so keen on dogs don't feel like they're being put in a situation that makes them uncomfortable.
Thank you. Chris, how do you plan to advocate for yourself until elections week?
Thank you. We continuously want to be out on the green still and continuing attending market days so that we can keep on, connecting with the students, keep on hearing what they want done with their student government. Thank you.
Thank you. Thomas, what have you done to promote diversity on campus?
So one of the things that we have done recently, this is something that student government has never done, is we took 11 of our members to the Multicultural Leadership Summit in Tallahassee. It was the 14th year that FSU has done such a summit. And what this summit allowed for our members to do is to start having conversations about how we're exactly going to enhance our own respective communities in regards to diversity and inclusion. Some of the lessons that I took away, one, it's not just a matter of representation, it's also a matter of making sure that every voice is heard and it's actually being listened to. And it's not just checking a box on a list. It's a matter of making everyone feel like that their voice, their opinions actually matter. And so one of the things that we're doing in student government, one thing we're going to continue doing next year is that we're going to start really ramping up the training that we do within student government, training our leaders to think more about how do we get constituencies that are underrepresented in student government, whether it be going for Senate or just getting involved as a volunteer or just letting your voice be heard as a student.
Thank you. And Jenna, what has been your biggest obstacle to overcome during this election cycle?
My biggest obstacle to overcome this election cycle is taking a step back from realizing that I can't always be there for everyone. Cannot spread myself too thin. Even though my first dedication is as a student, next is student body president, and that is my goal. I've realized that if someone calls me in need, I have to defer and really make sure that someone else can get to that situation as promptly as I could. But I can't always be that person for everyone now, so that's kind of been hard because I'm very empathetic and I try to help everyone that I can. But I've realized that I'm a student first, then student body president, and then my friend of life comes into play.
Thank you. Now we're going to do the last round of questions. Chris, what other campus activities are you a part of, and how will that affect your role if you become president?
Thank you. So currently I'm involved in a couple of clubs, including Model United Nations, Sailing Club, and Game Club. And this allows me, one, it has allowed me to connect with actual people in clubs and hear what they think about student government. Like Musical Theater Club, which I'm also part of, just recently put on a production and which got funding from student government. And so it allows me to connect with people who are actually dealing with student government also. And obviously I'm going to have to withdraw from a few of those clubs because some are very time consuming, but I'm willing to do that to serve the student body.
Thank you. Thomas, do you think Greek amnesty is feasible given chapters report get punished by their national headquarters?
I think Greek amnesty is definitely practical, and it's something that we need to push for because a lot of organizations have been caught in the crossfires lately across the nation. As we've seen in Tallahassee, the unfortunate situation with the death of a student has cost, to my knowledge, hundreds to thousands of students the ability to network and talk with people and actually build those kind of connections and relationships that we value within Greek life. Something that I do not want to see happen at UNF, ultimately, of course, is the death of a student, but I also don't want to see people lose out on opportunities that are invaluable to them in their future career. So one thing that we're going to do with expanding medical amnesty is that we're going to give everyone the reason, or we're going to give everyone the confidence in their mind that they're going to be able to call for help, get students help, and they're not going to be put in jeopardy. Their organizations are not going to be put in jeopardy simply because they actually are doing everything they can, and accidents will happen, unfortunately.
Thank you. The last question will be for Jenna. Many people view student government to be an exclusive organization. How would you ensure that everybody feels welcome to join student government?
But it's simply making sure that they feel comfortable to come up to the third floor, to make sure that they feel that they actually know who I am, who Maria is, who our executive staff is, and to make sure that they feel that the agencies are actually serving them. I've heard from multiple students that they really don't know what student government does, and that really disheartens me. I'm not going to lock myself away inside the office. I'm going to go out to as many events as I can possible and make sure that I actually go up to students and talk to them and not stay within my own circle. I also plan on going to the library as often as I can, hanging out on the green, and making sure that students just know who the senators are, who the student body president is, and who the vice president is.
Thank you. All right, so this concludes the session of the debate, and now we'll move on to the candidates' closing statements. So anything that we haven't gone over, or if there's any last thoughts you want to leave with the crowd, this is your time. You have 3 minutes, and we will start with Thomas.
Caught me at a bad time. I'm dehydrated. So just to close this debate, I want to let every one of you know that as the president, every day I come in, I have thought about how am I going to serve you today? How am I going to improve the student experience? And every day we're fighting issues like food insecurity, we're expanding diversity and inclusion, and we're working to really build the kind of experiences that make UNF the place you want to be, and the kind of place that can't be replicated, the kind of place that you, as an Osprey, you would not pass up for anything else in the world. And of course, every one of us has to eventually leave. I have to eventually leave, but it's a place that you'll never forget. So what I want you to know, part of being in student government, it means having the commitment, having the dedication, having the passion to serve people in every way. And part of that really means that you have to make sacrifices. That means you're going to lose time in clubs, you're going to lose time in Greek life, you're going to lose a lot of time doing a lot of different things, and losing a lot of opportunities that you would want to take advantage of as a regular student. But the reason why you do it is even bigger than anything you can imagine. Because when you leave student government, when you leave UNF, those kind of experiences are what are going to power you through the rest of your life, throughout your career, throughout your family, and whatever it is that you want to do with your life. Those are the sort of things that are really going to be ingrained in your heart. And that's the kind of service you can expect from me as your president for another year.
Thank you, Thomas. Jenna, go ahead.
So I've already taken steps back from my chapter, as I've said previously. Going back to Greek amnesty, I also believe that the national headquarters are the ones who ultimately make the decision of what goes on within that organization. I also don't think that singling out groups is the right thing to do and create a diverse and inclusive university. Medical amnesty within groups is already established. They will take mercy upon groups, and I understand wanting to expand that. But attacking a certain group and making them feel like that is their fault about what's going on with universities and universities around the nation is wrong. When I speak about creating opportunities within student government and making sure that senators are energized, I know how it feels to feel like you don't have a place within student government, like you don't have a voice, and I was so honored that I started volunteering and I started reaching out to people who really helped me. It made me feel like I was a part of something, and I plan on making sure that senators know how to do that as well. I really want to move student government forward. The things that we have on our tickets promote diversity, and they promote engaging times within our community. Having a dog park will make students with disabilities or make students who have issues with emotional, mental health feel like they have a place at home. And I really just want to move student government forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Student government is an incredibly powerful organization with the potential to impact the lives of every student on campus. And I recognize that burden that goes on everyone in student government. And I'm willing to make the sacrifices of, withdrawing from clubs so that I can help better this student body. And unfortunately, the interactions within student government and the student body leaves a large portion of people unrepresented within student government. And I want to work to make that better. I want so that everyone is represented, that everyone has a voice within student government. And election season should not be the only time when we're outreaching a lot to the student body. We should be doing it more and more, and that is our mission. And the mission of the Howard Party is to make UNF student government your student government. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have come to the closing of tonight's debate. I want to thank you guys for coming out. Make sure to vote. It's going to be March 6th and 7th from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. at the Student Union, at the Library Walkway, and 24 hours online. With that said, I want to thank you guys again. Have a great night.